President Biden back in D.C. tonight after isolating in Delaware as he recovered from COVID-19. Biden arriving at Joint Base Andrews this afternoon. This is the first time he's been seen publicly since dropping out of the 2024 presidential race. Matt Beckmann is a professor of political science at UC Irvine. He joins me now with more. Professor Beckmann, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Effectively, President Biden is now a lame duck president. What does that mean for his power and his relevancy?
So lame duck is really a misnomer in lots of ways. The presidency is a dynamic office, and windows are always opening and closing, and presidents have to kind of constantly adapt with the circumstances they happen to inhabit. One of the interesting aspects of Biden's particular moment is usually presidents at this time are really in the tension of running a campaign and trying to govern, which is very difficult because your time pressures are so intense. But Biden, freed from the campaign pressures, can really focus on governing. And so when you're president and you're the chief executive of the whole country, there's lots of governing opportunities. So he can do things like executive orders, pardons. My hunch is he'll work with the Senate to jam through as many Senate confirmations of judges as possible. And so there's still a lot to do and a lot that he can do. When you're president of the United States, any given day that you're in office, you have more ability to make change than you will ever again. And so you're never really a lame duck.
Interesting perspective there, especially because there's a lot going on nationally. There's a lot going on internationally as well. Does this change our standing? Is this bad for our standing on the world stage?
I think I would say similar things in that some doors open and some doors close. We've empowered the presidency so much in the area of foreign policy in particular. And so there's always these back channels and quiet behind the scenes conversations. When you're freed up from electoral pressures, it opens up some opportunities to imagine possibilities that might not be possible if you're in the midst of a campaign. On the flip side, things that are going to be longer term or take a while or be controversial, everyone has an easy ability to just bleed out the clock. And so Biden is going to have to look for things that he can do in short order and with broad consensus and get them done quickly. But yeah, when you're in foreign policy, you can always make a difference, and it's just the longer term things are not going to be really viable right now.
So a lot of Republicans, including House Speaker Mike Johnson and also Republican candidate Donald Trump, have said that he should resign as president, not just step down out of the race, but he should resign altogether. Do you foresee that happening? How would that work?
Yeah, no, it won't work. If you have a president who isn't wanting to step down, you can impeach, the House can impeach and the Senate can convict and remove the president from office. That we've seen how hard it is to impeach and remove somebody from office over the last several years. Or you can use the 25th Amendment, and I could bore you with all sorts of, esoteric details of the Constitution. But the reality is that that is basically like having your own allies and subordinates say that against their own boss, they're going to overthrow him and kick him out. And so it just is, Joe Biden, if Joe Biden wants to finish out his first term, he will.
Yeah, we've talked about the 25th Amendment here at 6 o'clock. Does Biden's legacy hinge on Kamala's victory?
So in some ways, I would say like all presidents' legacies depend on what happens after they leave office. I mean, almost by definition. The challenge, and part of that is visual. Like if your fellow partisan gets elected after you leave office, it seems like a sort of the country is affirming your term as president, your time as president. And if the other party wins, it seems like a repudiation of you. But there's even more, to my mind, the more important aspect is the substantive part. If the opposing party comes in right on your heels, they can unwind a lot of the things that you've set in motion but are hard to have implemented right away. Whereas if your fellow partisan comes in, they can kind of lock in a lot of your policy wins. In Biden's case, with him stepping down and Vice President Harris stepping in to become the nominee, I think Biden's legacy is heavily contingent on this next election in a way that other presidents, even more so than other presidents. And as I view it, all presidents are dependent on the election after they finish up.
We're 105 days away from the election, so we will wait and see. Thank you so much. For more, he's written a book, too. For more from Professor Matt Beckmann. His book is called The President's Day, Managing Time in the Oval Office. It is out this September. Congratulations on the book, and thanks again for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Alex, over to you.
Perfect.